Hey, in this video, we're going to be talking about church live streaming. I'm going to be taking some questions here on this live stream, and you guys provide the questions. I'll do my best to provide the answers in this Q&A. So hope you guys are having a great week, great Friday afternoon. Everything's ready for church this Sunday here. And I wanted to do this session because we've released quite a few videos over the past really week or so about church live streaming, and it's always fun when I release these videos. I'm excited about kind of this new 2.0 setup that I've been covering in these videos, and it's always fun to see comments come in and good questions coming in, as well as the community providing just insight to other people's questions, even to some of the questions that I had about certain things. So we're going to be going over some of those in this video today. I'll probably hang out here for about an hour or so. Feel free to leave your questions here in the chat. I already see them rolling in, and we'll just dive right in. And then I might also go to some of the good questions I saw in the comment sections of videos. So checking my audio. Looks like it sounds good. All right, so let's go ahead and just dive in. I saw the first question here from Christian. It's a great one, so we'll just dive right in. So he asked, actually, here's a better thing I can do. I forgot I have this feature here. I can add in your questions, so add to broadcast. All right, Christian asked, what's the best way to get graphics from ProPresenter into an A10 Mini Pro when I want to use both full screen graphics and lower thirds? So Christian, this is part of the reason why my latest recommendation, you'll see in the video I released last week, my recommendation is to use the A10 Mini Pro for live action cameras only. It's going to send one video feed that you cut those live action cameras. It's going to send that video feed into ProPresenter, and then you have pretty much unlimited capability with ProPresenter to overlay lyrics and graphics. That's what you're talking about, sending graphics from ProPresenter into the A10. That's part of the reason why I was never initially a huge advocate of using the A10 Mini Pro before ProPresenter had this really strong streaming capability, because you would have to take up one or two, I don't know, possibly three of your inputs on the A10 for ProPresenter video feeds coming into it, and then you can only have one or two live action cameras. So that's why I was never a huge advocate of the A10 Mini Pro, even when it first came out. It's a cool device, but I'm like, you're gonna feel stuck very quickly. But now with ProPresenter, you can use your A10 Mini Pro primarily for live action video. You could probably do some other fun things with it too, with I think it has a media player in it and things like that. I actually have not dove that deep into the A10 Mini Pro beyond just being a video capture device for 4 cameras. So that's what I recommend is refer to that last video, my 2021 kind of updated setup video for live streaming, and that's how it would be. That's how I'd be using the A10 Mini along with ProPresenter here. So great question, Christian. Let's see here. Dion asks, what's your thoughts on graphic slides and lower thirds? I think they're very important. So you want to have that capability for your live stream. People want to be able to sing along to the lyrics of songs. They need to see your pastor's sermon notes, etc. So I would make sure that I have those available. Let's see, Josh asked, are you wanting both full screen? Well, that's actually a question. It's funny, you guys ask questions, but you're answering other people's questions, so that's not, I think you're helping out Christian there. Ryan asks, what's the best way to eliminate electrical audio interference that creates buzz and humming running a PTZ cam with OBS? Okay, so it sounds like you're sending audio into your PTZ camera, and that's where I would do it differently in the first place. I would recommend just having your audio go from your mixing console directly into your computer running OBS, and just have a separate audio capture device in OBS. I would not want to put audio through my video camera. Sure, it might help with some syncing, but you can also sync things in OBS if you wanted to, or whatever streaming software you use. You can apply delay latency to your mixing console output if it's a digital mixer like the X32. So I would yeah, I mean, that's one thing that could help solve some issues there. But then also you're probably dealing with some unbalanced to balanced cable conversions and things like that. That's probably causing audio interference, or maybe some grounding issues. But I think you're going to introduce a lot of those issues when you're trying to send your video feed or your audio feed into the camera like that. So I would just recommend against that technique there. Daniel asks, best budget live streaming kits for churches, please. Refer to my video a week ago, which covers the 2021 setup for that. And ProPresenter and having an A10 Mini are kind of you can't really get around that for that type of setup. I think they're very budget friendly for what they can do. And then for cameras, it's kind of up to you. I recommend the Sony A6400s. There are some less expensive ones out there that you can definitely look into to save money. Budget is very relative, as you guys know. Thanks, Jesus. Keep up the hard work. I'm keeping on. I got you guys. I appreciate all you guys. I literally have like the best job in the world. I love what we do here at Churchfront. Have you used NDI cameras? I've trying to think. I've not. I think I have some PTZ cameras that are NDI. I haven't really messed around with it much myself. I think it's great technology, especially with like ProPresenter. With ProPresenter, you can have NDI come directly into it, so that's something you could try to do. My hesitation though with that is it asking, how much is it asking of the computer to like process all that video coming in on NDI? So I think it is a great solution for a lot of folks, for some folks too. Jose asks, can you use EasyWorship for Ecamm Live? Yeah, I think EasyWorship should have an NDI output feature to it if you want to overlay things into Ecamm Live. I'm not sure if EasyWorship has a live stream capability built in itself, like ProPresenter, but I think you can at least send your lyrics from EasyWorship into Ecamm Live. Thoughts on the Blackmagic Design web presenter? I actually have not gotten my hands on this device myself. At least to my knowledge, let me just look that up really quick. I believe it's an encoder, right? Just looking this up on B&H real quick. Let's look at this together. I can share my screen. Okay. Yeah, so it's basically a hardware streaming encoder. I think it's great. I don't see a huge need for it for a lot of folks. It's when we're talking about these live streaming setups, maybe I should make a whole other video just about this. I really kind of have two primary recommendations right now when it comes to all this streaming gear. So my first recommendation is the video I made last week, which I'm kind of calling the new 2021 beginner live streaming setup for churches, that is very much based with ProPresenter as your video switcher / encoder, even though it's not doing all the video switching, and then an A10 Mini Pro to do video switching for live action cameras. I think that's like a really great budget conscious setup that's going to work well for a lot of churches out there, smaller churches especially, if you're like looking to invest a few $1,000s into a pretty robust live streaming system. And then you can even pay for Resi to use with it, and encoding's gonna be great. So that's like my first setup recommendation. And then the second one, it's kind of like, if you really want to go all in with like professional hardware encoding and things like that, then that's the advanced live streaming setup. You can search that on my YouTube channel. We still use that at Mission Lakewood, and I'm still a huge advocate of that type of system because it's just really robust. It looks great, sounds great. I don't know. I think there might be some options in the middle, but to me, it's like, they're kind of compromising one of those other two options that I recommend. So I really have two recommendations because everybody, like, I saw some questions after I did last week's video about the new live streaming setup. Everybody was like, oh, do you recommend even the hardware stuff anymore? Like the Television Studio HD and the Resi hardware encoder and the Video Hub and the Deck Link. Yes, I do. I still like that setup a lot. I think it's a bit more, again, I think you can just have more reliability there, maybe a bit more redundancy in the system. The issue with ProPresenter streaming is if it did fail, then it's pretty much completely out and gonna fail everywhere like for you. Really two main recommendations I have at this point. So Benjamin, to answer your question about the web presenter, I think it's cool. It doesn't really fit really into either one of my solutions, because if you go with a more beginner setup, I recommend, I think ProPresenter does a great job encoding and it works just fine. And then if you want a more professional level with a hardware encoder, I would go with like a Living as One Ray encoder. I think the law of diminishing returns with certain investments kind of starts to kick in with some of these pieces of devices, so it's important to keep that in mind. I have not heard of the BirdDog NDI system. Let's just look it up real quick. BirdDog NDI. I think I've heard of it. I have not looked into it. So yes, you can have my cookie. Jake and screen. Okay. So BirdDog products. Looks like they just make a ton of NDI devices. Looking like, I'm guessing these are like converters. So if you have a non-NDI camera, you can send it in here and then you can plug this into your network and then you have an NDI camera device. That's pretty cool. I think there's some cool potential here where imagine if maybe you have a place where you want to put an overflow feed on the other side of your church, and you don't want to run NDI or SDI over to it, but your church already has an existing network. Then I'm guessing with this type of setup, you could have one of these boxes that has HDMI in wherever your stream is being cut and encoded, and then you have wherever your overflow screen is, wherever in your building, as long as it's on the same network, then you can have HDMI out for that. So I think and then that can produce the image. So looks like some pretty cool cameras. I would, again, it's like you look at these cameras right here. I'd be interested in looking. So you got P400, P4K, 10-bit NDI. I mean, that's impressive. But again, the sensor size on these things, it's got to be tiny. I think that, does it say what the sensor size is? I'm not seeing it. My hesitancy with these cameras is especially for churches where low light situation, it's going to be pretty grainy and such. I think these cameras would work great for this shot you see right here, right? If you want a wide shot of this humongous stadium, and maybe these cameras could serve your church well for that type of context. If you want a wide shot of the whole room, it'll be great. But when you start zooming in and all that, it's going to be grainy and stuff, especially if it doesn't have good optical zooming. So good question there. Let's go back here, see what other questions we've got. So Dion, let's see. He asks, is it better to make lower thirds and ProPresenter 7 for the speaker on Sunday morning before the service? Scripture sermon points are already made in PowerPoint. So I'm going to make, this reminds me of another video I want to make. I want to make the ultimate guide to making your sermon slides in ProPresenter video. I'm going to do that for pastors. So then you guys can send that video to all your pastors to be like, Pastor, stop using PowerPoint. Stop using Google Slides. Stop using Keynote. Build it in ProPresenter. Because here's the thing. Even if you don't have a campus license of ProPresenter, they can still download ProPresenter for free, right, with a watermark on it, but they can still build documents, and ProPresenter has a really powerful editor. I really enjoy it a lot. So I really recommend equipping your pastor to be able to create their slides within ProPresenter. And then that's going to make your job so much easier as the tech director, worship leader, whoever's prepping ProPresenter, so that you can have all of it prepared for your live stream, so that when you have the text and all that stuff native in ProPresenter, you can apply different looks. So you can have lower thirds show up one way for your congregation. You can have it show up a different way for your viewers online. And that really means that you have to have everything formatted within ProPresenter. And if your church already has ProPresenter, there's no reason you couldn't start doing that. The biggest reason you couldn't is that most pastors just don't like changing and don't like learning a new piece of software. But I will help you convince them in this new video that I'm going to make. Okay, I get this question a lot about Sling Studio. Have I heard of it? Yes, I have heard of it. So let's go ahead and let's just take a look at it. And let's see, Sling Studio. This is the one I get these, there's like Switcher Studio, Sling Studio. Okay, so this is the one where you've got this hub and you've got these wireless transmitters and you've got everything. It kind of like syncs it all together. You control it from an iPad. I think it could be cool. Let's see. Yeah. Oh, here's a good diagram. So you've got these wireless camera transmitters and things like that, and you could pretty much send any device, right? Phone, DSLR, camcorder, anything with HDMI out. It even looks like the hub actually has inputs on it as well, and then you're able to control it with the software. So it looks really cool. Again, I think with this setup, so really you're relying on it to be. It's like making your camera connections wireless if you want with these, and then it's obviously switching for you, encoding for you. It looks like it can send directly to the stream for you as well. So looks like a pretty good solution. I'm trying to think through if you wanted to put graphics and stuff like that on ProPresenter, then I'm not sure how many more inputs they give you. Let me look and see if I can find it. It's always funny when I can find better product information on B&H. So here's their kit, $1,700, pretty reasonable price. I wanted to see the back of this thing to see like what plugs it has on it. Hub. How's there not a picture of the connections on the hub? I'd just be interested to see. So you can have 10 simultaneous inputs. I just wonder how many of those could be hardwired if you wanted to. So I've not spent, like I said, you guys, I'm like learning more about it right now. The reason I haven't like spent a whole lot of time thinking about it is, to me, when I'm just considering like all the wireless transcoding and stuff like that having to happen here, I'm a little like latency, which honestly latency is not that big of a deal, but also the quality of like how it's actually converting these signals to wireless and putting it to the hub, and getting all that done. And then I'm trying to think here, there's got to be some sort of good audio input on the hub as well. So it looks cool. I'm not gonna say it's like, oh, don't get this. Like, it could be maybe a good option for some churches. To me, though, sometimes these options seem like a little bit too good to be true, or a little bit gimmicky, and you might suffer a lot when it comes to the quality of how video is actually being encoded, and the quality that your church is going to see. I think, if I'm remembering correctly, I think that Worship Leader Hangout featured a church on their YouTube channel that uses this setup. So that's what I need to do, is just go to that church's live stream and kind of see how we like the results, assuming that they're still using that system. So cool. And then let's go back here. Any thoughts on broadcasting via OBS with iPhones as cameras? You can do it. iPhones surprisingly have good cameras. Yeah, I mean, it's not the ideal situation. It's like, what if someone doesn't show up with an iPhone, right? Like, it's just not a very robust, permanent solution, I think, for your church. iPhones as well. Yeah, you got to worry about batteries and stuff like that. again, I think there's like these quick and scrappy solutions that you can use. You can use this type of setup for, but I wouldn't be like, oh yeah, you're gonna be like set with this forever. I think it's more of a short-term solution. Danielle, I'd like to use Ableton as a double mixer by routing every channel. How can I do it in my live streaming? I'm not really sure if I completely understand the question here. Feel free to rephrase that one, or someone else can chime in and help her there. Is there a way to get announcements and background music before service into a Blackmagic A10 Studio without a computer? Thinking of using a data video encoder for streaming and computer for DAW. So not that I'm aware of. You can't, like, the A10 Television Studio has a media player built in, but you can pretty much just pull up images, like still image files. It's not like you can put like a full movie file in there that plays back scrolling announcements and like music in the background. So in our church, what we've done with a hardware setup like this is we have ProPresenter has a deck link duo, and it's sending whatever video feeds we want from ProPresenter with like looping announcements. And then audio, we actually go from ProPresenter to our mixing console, so the audio can get to the house as well. And then from there, it goes into our broadcast mix template. And then from the broadcast mix template, it goes back to the mixing console, and then it gets converted into hardware to go into the A10 Television Studio. So it's nice and long-winded and complicated when I walk through the routing like that. Have I tried Streamlabs OBS? Yes. That's like isn't that like I'm not a huge OBS user, so I'm not super familiar. Isn't that like the Mac version of OBS? I don't really know what the Streamlabs is actually referring to. What's the most volunteer-friendly way to mix audio for a live stream? I don't want a great volunteer need with a dedicated mixer for the stream. Okay, so yeah, I mean, the easiest way then is a post-fader bus mix on your mixing console. It could be X32, could be SQ5, whatever digital mixing console. You could have just an aux mix or something. Even the easiest way is just like have an output that's just mirroring the main mix in your house. But again, it's going to suffer, right? Like you can have easy, simple setup, but the easy, simple you usually try to get, you're going to sacrifice how well that can actually be dialed in for your live stream. So always, always, always important to keep all that stuff in mind as you're navigating the pros and cons of these different options over here. So I would recommend, my short answer is set up another mix bus on your mixing console that's going to be a post-fader mix bus. So it's mostly going to mirror whatever happens for your main in-house mix. But if you need to, you can still add a little bit or a little less of a particular channel to your live stream mix without affecting the in-house mix. So I really like how the X32 gives you the flexibility to do that when you need it. So great question, Dan. And I want to tell you guys a little bit more about the new Beginner's Guide to Live Streaming for Churches online course. The course isn't new, but we're updating it completely for 2021. So link is in the description of this video. If you guys want to click it, or go to worshipministryschool.com/live/streaming/course, and you'll find it. And you'll see that we have a discount running on this course where it's 50% off through really just tonight, midnight tonight. And watch this video here so you understand like what all's going on with it. And actually, this is okay. No, just making sure.
So I put a gradient with a countdown timer. The countdown timer on this page hits 0.
13-minute video that'll really help you understand what exactly is in the course and how it's going to work, how we're releasing videos over the next few weeks. You'll see the curriculum right here. So starting next week, I'm going to come out with brand new lessons, and they're going to be inside the Worship Ministry School website. And yeah, you can get started. So it's $97 right now, but after tonight, it's going to be $200. So make sure you take advantage of that discount right now before you miss out on it, especially if you're like on the fence and you know you're going to do it. Just do it now so you pay only 50% of the price. So let's go ahead and dive back into some questions. Jose, can you use EasyWorship with ECAM? Yes, you can. I think we actually already talked about that earlier. Okay. I would like to run a video through ProPresenter 7 and sync it with Ableton so that I can fade out the music and fade in the band playing the same music. Everything would have to sync to make it seamless. Okay. So I would send, that's why I'm a big advocate of setting up Ableton sessions with MIDI cues so that I don't really know exactly what you're trying to, I don't know if I get the question, but that's where Ableton automation would come in. Like, let's say, like, if I wanted to, I could just, I mean, the thing with Ableton, it's timeline. You can do whatever you want. It's endless possibilities here with automation. So run a video through ProPresenter 7 and sync it with Ableton so I can fade out the music and fade in the band playing the same music. Yeah, so you just got to set up MIDI cues in Ableton to do that, trigger at the right time. Josh has a great question. Hey, Jake, how's the first night at home? So we just had a new baby boy, which is really exciting, and our first night at home was last night, and it was what one would expect for the first night home. I think I was up from 11 till about 3 in the morning, kind of sleeping. So we figured out, this is funny. It's like even when you've done the whole thing before, we had twins last time, and this time is definitely easier with one kid. But with when you compare it to the, you still, I don't know, it's like you forget everything as a parent again of newborns, and then it's like it comes back pretty quick. But when you first have the newborn, they're just crying. It's like, okay, well, they need to be fed. Do they need a diaper change? Do they need to be swaddled? Yeah, that's usually about it. One of those things has to be done. But it was pretty good, Josh. Fortunately, wife and baby are really healthy. Everybody's doing well. But it was what one would expect with the first evening back from the hospital. Let's see. Jake has a question. Nice name, Jake Barker. About just running ProPresenter. So, like, what tips do you have for a ProPresenter volunteer pushing slides on the screen, hitting the next button? I would say make sure that you know what songs they're playing that week and listen to them at home so you're just familiar with them, and Sunday's not the first time you heard the song. And then I was always like, I like to make sure lyric slides are always going to be early. I'd rather have you err on the early side of things than the late side of things. People tend to, like, read a slide through, like, both lines of text pretty quickly, so you can move to the next slide and they're ready to sing that. So those are my main tips there. Don't be too hard on yourself if you make any mistakes. That's my other tip. Joshua, do I have experience with ETC lighting systems, especially when it comes to automating them? I don't. Man, the ETC lighting systems, they're really built for, like, theaters, and I think that's how they built them for that purpose. So they're kind of cumbersome in my experience to try to, like, I just like simple software like Lightkey. It's like, I want my pretty little visualizer and make my scenes and my cues and then just link them to MIDI cues, and that's it. Whereas ETC, they make it so you have to have, like, some sort of engineering degree to understand how to use their mixing console. So it's like, if I sit down at something like a mixing console or a sound console and I can't intuitively figure out the basics of what I need to do within about 5 to 10 minutes, I'm like, this is horrible user experience and design. So, but people still buy them. Do you still like the EarTech headsets? Yes, I do. I think they're a great headset. Yes, 7 people. I mean, for the price, it's really hard to argue. Not like to not go with those headsets when you compare that with like the alternatives like ClearCom. You don't need a base station, so great headsets. Ricardo, what hardware do you need to get a good streaming audio quality? We just have a Behringer X32 connected to our PC right now. I mean, I feel like you have all you need right there. So in terms of getting it from your X32 to your PC, you can just route it through the USB cable, and then it's all digital there. It's not like you're doing any analog to digital conversion. And then it really comes down to just like how your mixing is done. Make sure your gain's right, processing's right. Add some verb into your live stream mix to give some sense of space. So much. It's hard to like, whenever I think about even, for this course I'm building about how to make a great live stream mix, it's like, especially if you're going the route of just using a mix bus on your X32 or a comparable sound console, like you really have to kind of step back to make sure that you had all the in-house mix is set up properly, just in the way that you're processing individual channels. Because generally, I don't think that's going to change a whole lot from how you process individual channels for your in-house mix versus the live stream. And then I think the big difference for your live stream is more just in like the actual mixing, not the processing of channels. So I don't know if I'd really have much more. And then, I think like you got to be aware that however you're encoding your stream can also help or hurt the audio quality as well. So just, I think ProPresenter does a good job encoding audio. ECMM does a good job. And then those are the ones I've used the most. I'm using ECMM right now, just so you guys know. It's very easy to do these kind of solo live streams like this. And then Resi encoders, those also work really well. Let's see here. Oh, Samuel asked, can you do 360 video live stream? Maybe? I don't know. I've never heard of that. That'd be interesting. But if anybody knows, that's something interesting to look into. Bradley, hey Jake, we're currently running a matrix feed from a front of house mix to our stream. I have Logic set up and ready to go. Do you recommend running that audio through Logic? You mean just your matrix mix? Like, I mean, if I had Logic, I would just do a full separate broadcast mix in a box. I'm trying to think of the benefits if you want to just take your matrix mix and put it through Logic. Maybe you could add like a good mastering plugin to kind of sweeten it a little bit, but I don't know. Why not just run the whole mix multi-track through Logic? Brian, why not the 6600? Is that the talking about the Sony? Great question. Why not? Let's look at it. I think the reason why I like the A6400 is the A6600 is just costs more money. It has more features. I don't think you're going to benefit from that much for live streaming purposes. So let's just pull up both of them. Anybody gonna get the Alpha 1, the Sony A1? Okay, so let's compare here. So about $900 for the A6400, and then you're talking about another $500 for the 6600. So let's compare here. The 6600 has an APS-C Exmor CMOS sensor, and then the 6400 has the same exact sensor. So from a sensor standpoint, we're not really getting anything different. And then I would have to look up, like, what are some of the side-by-sides? Because this does 4K 24 tech specs. Okay, I'm looking at the 6400. Try not to get myself confused here. Record modes look pretty much the same. I'd be interested to know. So I wonder if the 6600 has a bigger HDMI out. I doubt it because it looks like the same exact body size. Yeah, same. It's not like you're getting better I/O and stuff like that on the 6600. What are we getting? Why would I pay $500 more? So maybe you're just getting these better video profiles. Oh, there we go. Yeah, I mean, to me, so you're getting some more features and stuff. No, this is like the same. I'm getting myself confused here. No, okay, so there, I think there are some. No, it says, guys, I don't even know. I have to look at the details, and to me, it's like if I have to look this closely to figure out why I would pay more, especially because to me, the biggest thing is they have the same exact sensors on them. You can use the same exact lenses. So there's probably just some more advanced pro features on the 6600 that I don't really think you need compared to the 6400. So you can put more money into lenses and stuff. Oh, sorry, I kept his comment very large. You guys probably couldn't see anything. Aaron, what's the delay when going through a DAW? So I always have to apply delay to our DAW, and I like applying it on the master output of Ableton before it goes back to our mixer and then gets sent to our A10. So I find in my scenario, I have to apply around 100 milliseconds of delay to audio to sync it up with my video switcher, my video feed. And then the actual delay, though, happening in the DAW, it's crazy because it shows you how slow video is, right? The amount I have to delay it. So, because I turn my buffer size all the way up in Ableton Live, which I think adds 40 milliseconds or something like that going through Ableton. And then I have to add another 100 milliseconds. So it's like 140 milliseconds of delay I have to apply to audio, even with all those plugins, before it gets synced up properly. So. Afton, how much is Worship Ministry School membership? So it really depends. You guys know we have a couple standalone courses, which you can shop on our website here. One of them being the live streaming course, which is available now for $97 until tonight, and that's $200 after that. And then we have some other options out there, and it really depends on what level of help you need. So that's why you go to worshipministryschool.com, you schedule a strategy session, you'll hop on with one of our coaches, either Luke, either Eric, either Zane, sometimes myself, and then we're going to assess what you actually need and then prescribe to you kind of like what level of membership or maybe our full program, could be some sort of membership. We'll let you know what that will be on the call there. So let's see here. Appreciate the encouragement, Linus. Thank you, brother. Let's see here. Just making my way down here. What do you think about the Canon Rebel T5? Let's have a look. I'm going to make this comment a little bit smaller. What in the world, Ecamm? Okay, now it's like really distorted. Okay, I'm going to go back and look at the Canon Rebel T5. T5 must be an older model because right now they're on the T7. And then let's look here. It's got an APS-C sensor, so I think you're going to get some decent video quality out of that. And you really only need 1080p to 30 frames a second. So this could also be a pretty inexpensive setup. I think the Sony is probably going to produce a better image, have some better features in there. But if you're like, oh, I want to spend $500 a camera instead of, $1,000 or $1,200 per camera and lens setup, you could consider one of these. So I might get my hands on one of these to test it out and push it to its limits. Okay. Wow. Ecamm's having a fun time trying to pull these comments up here. Trying to get these comments look ridiculous. Why is it doing this? Great job, Ecamm. It's like making the profile pictures really huge. Okay, I'm like trying to click and drag and it's not letting me resize it appropriately. I broke Ecamm, guys. Let's save. It's like, oh, there we go. This is what I needed. There we go. All right, Krishna from India. Hey, great to have you on the stream. Internet's an amazing thing. We use A6400 with A10 Mini and OBS. These gadgets sometimes audio goes first and video takes a delay. Yeah, so you have to apply delay in OBS probably. If you're, I mean, I don't know how your audio is coming into OBS. If you're going through the ATEM first, I know in the ATEM you can apply delay to your microphones coming into it. So if audio comes first, video's behind, that means you just need to slow down the video and apply some, or so audio and slow it and apply delay. Okay. Got so many great questions out here. What's the best streaming software for 1080p quality? I mean, I think they're all pretty much the same. I mean, yeah, you want to have a good encoding solution, but ProPresenter, that's my favorite now. That's my favorite. I guess that's my favorite go-to recommendation for streaming software, and it does 1080p just fine. Let's see here. What's going on? I think Krishna asked this question like a billion times. I answered it finally, so you can stop copy and pasting in the chat there. Okay. Dan asked, my church has a one camera setup. How can I send all of the content that's happening live in the church to a live stream? What does that setup look like? We recently got the A10 Mini Pro. Then that is the perfect ideal setup for what I covered in last week's video, where the video goes in the A10 Mini Pro. A10 Mini Pro goes in a ProPresenter. So you'll want to make sure you're using ProPresenter for your presentation software and now live streaming. And then you can overlay all the graphics and lyrics that you would like. Here's a good question. Hi, Jake. Thanks for your work and helping us out. Can you recommend some alternatives to your Resi encoder? Loved your mobile streaming rig. Yeah, so I think you could also use AJA makes one. I don't know if they call it AJA or AJA. AJA Hilo. Let me pull that up real quick. This guy right here I mean, you could use the web presenter. We talked about this before. It's a little bit cheaper. But then again, then I look at the AJ Hilo, and then let's see, it does 2.264. It has a recording capability. That's convenient. So actually, you kind of are saving money on this, because if you go the Resi route, you can only encode to the cloud, which is good, and it'll store it in the cloud. You can download the file later. This has an SD card port in it, so you could like record locally. Where in my setup, I have a HyperDeck Mini and the encoder, and then I can record in one device and encode in the other device. So that could be an alternative for you. Coach Creed, have you done acoustic treatment in a large gym-sized building? What products do you use? Man, that's when you really have to kind of get a hold of like a professional on this topic. Or what's the name? I interviewed a guy once, acoustic. I can't remember his name. It was a company that, if you look on the Churchfront podcast, if you look up acoustical design, you'll probably find it. And he has a great YouTube channel. I just can't remember my name. But they have a service where you can call them and they'll kind of remote consult you on how to treat a room. And then they'll send you all the material you need. And then you can have someone like DIY. Maybe someone's a good carpenter at your church or likes doing that type of thing. They can help you actually install it. And it's pretty affordable to do that route. or you're gonna want to go ahead and what was I gonna say? Just hire a professional installer. So sorry guys, sometimes I'm like trying to talk and read comments at the same time. Doesn't work out too well. Thanks for the super chats here. So we've got one from, let's see what Ecamm does here. Have you had any, yeah, thanks for the super chat, as Joshua. Thanks, man. Have you had any audio shift when streaming the A10 Mini USB feed through ProPresenter? I've had bad experiences with OBS. I have not. So I've ran tests doing streaming here from my studio for like a long time, and this is one of the this is a very common thing I hear people have issues with OBS. The audio will like start out in sync, and then halfway through a stream it starts getting out of sync, and I don't know. That's why I don't use OBS. I mean, it's free, but it's like you kind of get what you pay for, which is nothing. So if someone has any tips on how to fix that, let them know here. But I've seen this a ton of times, and I can't recall like a specific fix for that issue there. Let's see here. Nicholas, good church at home setup for a new church plant. Video, audio, etc. Dude, I really think the beginner live streaming setup that I unpacked 2 videos ago on my YouTube channel, or live streaming setup 2021, it's going to work great for you. Again, you don't even have to, maybe you don't need, you could get by with just one live action camera, but still, I don't know. I think it's so scalable. Even to have 2 would be great, even if you're doing church at home. Into the A10 Mini kind of gives you some variety in live action shots, and then overlay whatever you need to in ProPresenter. Another super chat from Reinhardt. Thank you, sir. Really appreciate it. Hey, well, thanks. You didn't even have a question. I pulled up your comment because I thought it was going to be a question, but just love, encouragement, support. I appreciate that. Really, really do. Let's see here. Yeah, I need to get my hands on some wireless video transmission devices. Yeah, that's a great idea for a future video. Let me look into these a little bit more, and I can get back to you guys or make a video about it for wireless video transmission from a camera to like your video switcher. Folks chatting about the M1 Mac Mini. It's a great computer. Just made a video about that as well. There were some great comments and questions about that. So one of the things about the M1 Mac Mini, the only like major limitation is by default, you can only have 2 displays plugged into that Mac Minis. But if you're using ProPresenter for your presentation solution, for in-person screens, and for your live stream, it can kind of pose some issues because with a Mac Mini, one of those displays is taken up for the person at the workstation of the computer. And then usually for your church, you're going to want to have at least 2 other displays for the congregation screen and then also for your band stage display. So even for a simple setup like that, the Mac Mini by itself with the built-in connectivity can't really do that. I did, though, find people talking about some display link solutions. There's some kind of like jerry-rigged ways of doing this to make it so you can have multiple screens on there. So I'm not a fan, especially for like a live production environment. So like, I'm not a fan of like jerry-rigged solutions that kind of work if you like, say Beetlejuice 3 times and twirl around and like hit the refresh button and restart the computer precisely at 9:05 in the morning. If you know what I mean, right? Like it's too variable. I just want it to work. Let me show you guys something I just got. I just tested it out. It's one of these guys. It's the Man, Sony's autofocus is like too good. I can't even get, it's like stuck on my face. I can't get it. But this is the Ultra Studio Monitor 3G. It's a Thunderbolt 3 to HDMI or SDI output. Even if you had one or two of these, and I think it's like 100 and, how much did I even pay for this thing? Let's find out. Monitor 3G. $115. So if you guys are looking for additional connectivity for outputting video from ProPresenter, I would highly recommend it. Of course, you can get like a Decklink Duo or something bigger that has like 4 unique outputs, or like some people have mentioned, you can have an NDI output. But this is going to be kind of my go-to recommendation. So I have a Mac Mini with like a CalDigit Thunderbolt dock, and the Thunderbolt dock has a Thunderbolt in and a Thunderbolt out, right? So then it gives me an option to plug in another device like this if I need another video output. So I think these are going to be more and more popular accessories for churches who are kind of diving into the ProPresenter route. And then when you're in ProPresenter, you're going to see it show up as another display device that you can use. Question about this is a good question. So I'm glad you brought this up, T-Bomb 975. Building a system for my church, wondering if I'll get full 4K quality from the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Cameras 4K, Teradek 4K, wireless HDMI with Blackmagic 4K Studio Pro. Yes. Yeah, you can, everything's 4K. You should get 4K quality. To record, you'll have to use like an Ultra Studio mini recorder. And the bummer though is you can't record in 4K H.264 to have like a manageable file size at the end. It's going to do ProRes Lite or ProRes Proxy, regular ProRes, and then you're just going to have a ginormous 4K file that you're going to have to work with after the fact with your final line cut that you have. And then for streaming purposes, I just don't really know anybody streaming in 4K. Technically I'm streaming in 4K right now, but I don't even know if you're seeing that because I think the video capture device I'm using for this camera is only 1080. So I don't even know why I'm streaming in 4K. Just because I can. I guess I have a ton of upload speed here, so I might as well, right? Thoughts on the Martin Audio X12s? I think you're talking about the XP12s for a small worship band. They're great. They're some of my favorite speakers I've ever used. They're definitely pricier, but you get what you pay for. They sound awesome. So many great questions here. How are we doing on time? Already been 52 minutes. Time flies. We've got Dave Strucken from Kenya. Hey, it's awesome. Do you recommend the Canon SL3 for streaming? What is that one? And I'm guessing it must have a mini HDMI output on it somewhere. I'm not seeing the picture of that. Looks like it could be comparable to the Sony A6400s. I don't know about the lenses and stuff, probably comparable to the cheaper Sony lenses, but might not be a bad option. So many great questions here. Don't even know. Just kind of picking ones at random now. I was working through the list and then I saw there's so many here. Another super chat from KJ. Thank you, sir. Have you come across any audio sync issues with the base A10 Mini? Whether recording or streaming, the sync varies, getting worse as the stream goes. I have not encountered that myself. Mainly, I'm guessing you're putting audio feed into the A10 Mini. It would be interesting. Yeah, I mean, that kind of surprises me that that type of issue would arise. Sounds kind of like the OBS issue that people have had where, yeah, whether recording stream, the sync varies and it gets getting worse as the stream goes. Yeah, that's interesting. Why that's happening. Unfortunately, I don't have any like really clear answers there. Like just similar to the OBS situation. Maybe I would say like, I don't know, is there some possibility that like frame rates and sample rates of audio just aren't really working well together? Maybe, I don't know on the A10 Mini if you can adjust like what's the audio sample rate that it's using, 44.1, 48 kilohertz. Maybe that fudges with how well it can sync up with the video feed coming in. Something to look into. Here's a good question. ProPresenter 7 is using 80% CPU. How can I bring that down? Good question. And this is actually where some people clarified to me in the M1 Mac Mini video I did, where when I was like trying to peak out the performance, it went to 140%. And I'm like, that's not good. Like 140% of CPU, like how is it not crashing? Because it was still handling just fine. But the way people helped me understand it is that you have 8 cores CPU. You have 8 cores of CPU, right? And 1 core is 100%. 2 cores would be 200%. 3 cores would be 300%, and so on. So the fact it's using 80% of CPU, it's actually not that big of a deal, even if you have a quad core, 6 core, or 8 core computer. So at least that's what the folks smarter at me tell me. So and it makes sense because the computer was handling just fine. Church Pastor Blaster, thank you so much for the super chat. Just trying to see a good 3-camera setup for 9,000 square foot sanctuary, 20K budget. So that's a good budget range for the advanced live streaming setup that we talk about. Search my channel, advanced live streaming setup. I built that rack. You could look into the GoPack Pro that Summit's using. Very similar setup. There's some features about that. They need to, I think you could actually ask them, hey, can you build a GoPack Pro but make it exactly like Jake's? Because they have all the plans, right? And they could build it all, but it's going to be pricier, right? The GoPack Pro, I think, is $5K. I think with the version I have with my video rack, it's going to be around $8 to $10K, probably closer to $10K, especially if they make it, because they're putting a lot of work into packaging it well. And then the other question too is like, are you portable? If you're not, there's kind of ways you could do it differently, because you might not need some of the portable things I have in my GoPack. And then from a camera standpoint, you could get Blackmagic 6K cameras, probably be my recommendation, or the 4Ks, or get combination. Maybe for your main follow cam, do a Blackmagic 6K with a nice Canon 70 to 200, depending on the distance of your sanctuary. It's kind of hard to tell, and it sounds like a pretty big room. And then you can get some 4Ks. You'd have a great three camera setup there. So this is a great scenario where I definitely would have you apply to hop on a strategy session for Worship Ministry School. We can definitely chat about getting you coaching access. This is the exact type of stuff we help churches think through. It's like, hey, we have 20, 30K allocated towards our live stream. Help us do this right. So that's kind of what it's all about. Okay. Well, guys, again, I wish I could have time to answer every single question here. There are so many good ones. I'm trying to think through. Let me look before I go, because part of the reason I want to do this stream is I was looking at some of these comments from these other videos I did, and I'm trying to think if I feel like we talked about a lot of these things. Man, so many. There's just on that one video, I try to answer like all those comments, and then it's just like there's so many of them. So if you ever want something to do to help other people, just go through the comments on our YouTube channel and work your way through and add, give your 2 cents on things. But we had 199 comments on that one video. It's got 33,000 views in a week. And then the one earlier this week has like 111 comments. And again, I think the biggest thing was like there's so much questions around using an M1 Mac Mini for your church's live stream. And I really couldn't recommend it enough. Like, again, everything's been going well. Here's an interesting one. Man, there's some great threads going on here. Someone's like, here, I'll show you guys. You can see this. Talking about, I'm an IT person by trade and find that most churches waste money on Apple hardware just because it's Apple. Oh no, their planned obsolescence by limiting models that can install newer OSs is horrible, and their love of dongles and exterior devices is annoying. I agree there, but that being said, I do like what I've seen on M1-based computers, so that's just a great conversation. People passionate about their computers here. Yeah, just so many comments down here. And like I said, I'm really appreciative when you guys help me out. Some of these things where it's, again, I understand most of this stuff, but there's the weird things like the activity monitor that I was like, how does this even work? Why is it giving me these numbers? But then you guys clarified that for me. So really appreciate that. Well, guys, it's been so great to have you on this live stream. I want to remind you one more time, if you would like the step-by-step comprehensive guide to the live streaming system I'm now calling like kind of the updated 2021 live streaming system, go ahead and check out the course. We're going to dive deep into all this stuff, how to configure cameras, your video switcher, audio, get all of it into ProPresenter, kind of doing a deep dive there, get into work with a multi-streaming platform. And then we'll probably have a ton of bonus trainings and stuff like that too. So we're going to release these videos over the next few weeks. I would have started earlier, but we kind of had a baby this week, so hands were literally full with that. Fortunately, baby and mama are healthy, so all this stuff here looks like it's going to be on track as well. I would say these dates are the latest possible dates, hopefully, for these things to be released. Hopefully I can get these out even sooner, because I know a lot of people are like, Jake, let's hurry up and get these courses, lessons now, because we could really use it. I'm doing my best. We will make that happen. Lots of exciting things happening here at Churchfront right now. We've got Adam. He's going to be moving here full time. Really excited for that. He's a coach and a course instructor. We had Eric come on board as a new advisor. So our team is growing, and I think what you guys are going to find is that we're just going to have more cooler stuff available for you as time goes on. Teamwork makes the dream work. So I'm definitely finding that's the case with Churchfront, everything we're doing here. You guys will probably find the same thing with your ministries, whatever you're doing with life. Find passionate people who love to work hard and make an impact, and some awesome stuff happens there. So thank you so much, guys, for joining this live stream. My brain is fried by now, and check out that course, link in description, and I'll see you next time.